There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. It's a brand new week and you're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, and back with us for the night, Mr. Tim Dennis for Supernatural News and ParaShare. Tim, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Dave. I appreciate it.
We've been keeping people updated. You have been in and out of the hospital due to some illnesses, some infections, as you stated on last week's True Crime Tuesday, catching everybody up. And just want to let people know you're still in the healing mode. Foot's hopefully healing up quicker here. How's the infection going for you?
Well, yeah, to let people know I'll be healing up for a while. I have the staph infection is pretty deep in the bones in my feet, in my foot, my Charcot foot. So they're going to do 6 weeks of antibiotic treatment. So when people say, okay, are you all better now? Because I've gotten that this past week. No, not yet, folks. I still feel pretty crappy, but I'm getting there. You know, it's a day-by-day thing. And this week I felt a little bit rocky, but, you know, it's a day-by-day thing. So
that kind of rocky? Is that how you're feeling?
No, not that kind of rocky. No,
okay.
But I wish, because that Rocky made some money.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
well, we're on the right path now. Speaking of which, I want to make a quick mention. Tomorrow, Tuesday at the US 30 drag strip, we've got a back-to-back True Crime Tuesday for you. We're going to play tomorrow on Beyond the Darkness one of our favorite episodes of the last 6 months. It is an amazing story of Paul Franzak and a missing baby, misidentity, and a missing child story. This is an amazing tale, and we're going to run that tomorrow on Beyond the Darkness. For those of you that have not yet subscribed to True Crime Tuesday, may not be sure if that's your cup of tea, we're going to let you have a chance to hear one of our favorite episodes so that you can justify and judge for yourself. And if you like it, then go sign up, and you'll be able to hear our brand new episode, which will also be coming out tomorrow. And Tim, Spirit of Justice. This has everything our listeners are going to want. It's got murder, it's got cold case, and it's got a ghost.
Really?
Yeah. So that's available on True Crime Tuesday on our Patreon site. So you have to subscribe to get that. And I want to just let people understand here real quickly. When you subscribe, you don't have to only listen on Tuesdays. You can go to the website and listen any day. And you get access to all of the past True Crime Tuesdays that we have up on the site. So you'll get all of the past episodes. You'll get each brand new episode every Tuesday delivered to you ad-free. So you can try it for yourself. You're going to love it. And people were also asking me, Tim, is this something I have to pay for the entire year? No. You can go month by month, $5 a month. That's it. And if you decide you don't want them anymore, you can always cancel that $5 a month and stop it right there in the process. There is no contracts. There is no cancellation fees. There is no penalties. You get what you get for $5 a month, which is brand new 90 to 120 minute episodes delivered every Tuesday. And with that, you get all the access to the past True Crime Tuesdays that we started doing all the way back into April. So every episode is available for you, and you'll hear some really great episodes. We've got some fantastic ones and more coming your way. And again, those are only available for subscription. But I've heard a lot of people have written to me and saying, I heard about this. I came into your show just recently. What is True Crime Tuesday? So we're going to give you a taste of that tomorrow. And for those of you that are True Crime Tuesday subscribers, thank you very much. This will be the Paul Franzak episode that we aired a few weeks ago, The Foundling, on there. But again, when you tune in tomorrow, just like Beyond the Darkness, there will be ads. It will be a part of it. And then the regular True Crime Tuesday still ad-free. So the brand new episode that's available tomorrow will be ad-free and through our Patreon site. How do you sign up? Just go to darknessradio.com. darknessradio.com. Click on the True Crime Tuesday banner, and then you'll be able to subscribe. It's only $5 a month. That $5 goes a long way to pay for all of our administrative costs, our fees, our streaming fees, editing, producing, booking, everything it takes to get these shows done for you. So if you can help that, remember, it's not just the True Crime Tuesday that you're helping. By purchasing and subscribing to True Crime Tuesday, that helps us to be able to afford to do this show, Beyond the Darkness, 5 days a week. So you get brand new content, 90 minutes, 60 to 90 minutes every day of Beyond the Darkness. Plus, you get True Crime Tuesday every Tuesday, which is a 90-minute to 120-minute episode. And Tim, tell them a little bit about our Darkhives. What's going on with that, and where can they subscribe? Where can they catch up with those?
Well, Dave, every week, now this is every week, keep in mind, folks, you get 3 episodes of our archives from 2000. Right now, it's the 2006 season of Darkness Radio. So you can go back in time with us. I'm doing the time travel sound effect right now. Go back in time with us and relive the first season of Darkness Radio. Our friends over at Conflict on their YouTube page are hosting it. They have a huge following over there. You may say, well, how do I find them? It's easy. Go to darknessradio.com. You click on the banner that allows you to listen to the archive. It takes you right to the
archives. It takes you right there.
Yep.
The Darkhives. It'll take you right to that page so you can hear all of the past episodes that we make available. And you're putting up 3 a week. Plus, give a little commentary to kind of tell people about the episode and what was going on with us and at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a little taste of where our mindsets were at that time and kind of where things are. And what's interesting about the episodes, Dave, is it kind of gives people a taste of where we were at that time, how we've grown as personalities and interviewers, and how much the show has grown. So it kind of gives you a snapshot in time, a little bit of where we were then and where we are now.
Yeah, it's exciting. So check that out. Now, for those of you that are having a hard time keeping score because you don't have a whiteboard or an abacus out, you get 5 days of Beyond the Darkness, 60 to 90-minute episodes Monday through Friday. Then you get every Tuesday, True Crime Tuesday, a 90-minute to 120-minute episode. And you can also now dip into our Darkhives. It's the only way to hear them. You can't hear the Darkhives anywhere else, the old ones. The only way to hear them is through our site on that link. So you go directly to Darkness Radio, click on the Darkhives tab. You'll get access to all of them. And I think we've got, about 15, 16, 18 episodes up there now?
Something like that, yeah.
So you can go back and listen. So that's a lot of content. And all we're asking in exchange is just $5 to subscribe to the True Crime Tuesday. And that does go a long way to help us out. We have a goal that we wanted to hit by July of 2,500 subscribers and continue to grow from there. You guys are doing a great job. We're at about almost close to 1,200 people already signed up. So if you can go subscribe now, that'll help us. And again, it'll help us maintain the integrity of the show. And you get the ad-free True Crime Tuesday every week delivered to you. Brand new episodes, 4 episodes every month. So check that out. We got some other great episodes popping up this week. A little bit later on in the week, Tim, we're going to be speaking with Rachel Stavis. And she was on Talk is Jericho recently as well. Sister of Darkness, the Chronicles of a Modern Exorcist. And this woman has a very unique story, plus a creepy brand new episode of Theater of the Mind. That'll take place on Friday. Then we've also got Interview with the Boogeyman, which will be coming out. I think that's actually going to be next week on the show. So I'll make sure we keep you in the loop for that one. What were some of the other topics? I'm trying to remember the other topics we have coming up this week, Tim. My mind is melting. That's right. Let's see. We had, I don't know. Oh, okay, here we go. Paul Eno is back with us, or Paul Eno is back with us, and we're going to talk with him and discuss different creepy creatures and mysterious paranormal encounters as well. So that's just a taste of what you've got coming up this week. So let's get started now. We've got supernatural news. We've got ParaShare, where we'll be reading some of your stories and sharing some of them. But Tim, you've got a lot of stories to catch up on. Let's get dipping back into it. Where are we going to begin tonight's journey?
Well, Dave, we're going to begin with a landlord of a haunted pub who has launched an X-rated rant at an evil specter in a chilling Facebook Live session.
Well, that makes sense.
Well, you can't make it up. When you have an audience, you might as well let it all fly, sure. I guess. Sean Hutchinson said his pub has been haunted by former resident James Richard Stopford for more than 2 years. A pub landlord confronted a demon in a dramatic exchange broadcast live on the internet. Sean Hutchinson, 45 years old, said the Bait Hall on Chestergate in Macclesfield has been haunted by former resident James Richard Stopford for more than 2 years. The father of two says the ghost, known as Richard, is pure evil and doesn't like women or children. Sean is seen taunting and swearing at the spirit during an unnerving vigil at the pub, led by spirit medium James Higgins, who visited the building in an attempt to capture some paranormal activity. Sean is captured on Facebook Live confronting Richard before the broadcast is dramatically cut by James, who said he stopped recording for safety reasons. The eerie footage has been viewed by more than 21,000 times, according to the Manchester Evening News. Sean says it wasn't a pleasant experience, but something he's used to. He said, Richard is demonic. He is here permanently. I confront him every day and keep him away from my family. He doesn't like women or children. He is pure evil. He thinks it's his house, but it isn't. It's my home, and I'm not going anywhere.
So it sounds like he's not so much a Richard as he is a dick. Right,
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I would say so.
I've had a paranormal team here twice, and even some of them are terrified of this place. The pub, which dates back to 1525, is believed to have once had Oliver Cromwell as a guest and has a Jacobean staircase and priest holes that served as hiding places for Catholic priests.
Priest holes?
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever been trapped in a priest hole before, Dave.
Not. But, no, I'm Lutheran.
It's hard to straighten up afterwards. That's what I hear. Yeah. The staircase is also reported to have had marks at the top, which Sean says are from when the witch of Macclesfield, the Grey Lady, was hanged. Goes on to say that Sean claims the historic pub has 21 different ghosts because it's where ley lines cross and where the town's gallows were. 25-year-old James from 25-year-old James from Tytherington also claims there are spirits in the pub. He said there's something in there. It's a bad place. I put my hands off the wall and felt like I could see something. It was draining my energy, and I thought I might faint, he went on to say. We don't condone engagement with spirits, but Sean was arguing with him. It became like taunting and created a very negative vibe. I didn't feel safe. That is why I had
a negative vibe, man. He was harshing our gig.
That's right, dude. It didn't feel safe, and that's why I had to stop the vigil. James had pledged to work with Sean. He said, you can really see this has gotten to Sean. He is desperate for something to be done, and I think I can, but it is a lengthy process. So there you go.
All right. Well, good luck with your pub. Not
your what?
Yeah, the pub.
The what?
Yeah, good luck with your pub is what I'm telling him.
Pub.
Right, yeah. I hope he gets out of his priest hole and doesn't deal with this anymore.
Well, once you get trapped in the priest hole, it's pretty much curtains from there.
The other show I forgot to mention this week, our good friend Jeff Belanger is back with us this week, Tim. How about that?
Yeah.
Jeff Belanger, and we're going to be exploring legends together. And he's got a couple of really great stories to share with us. So make sure you check that out. Exploring Legends with Jeff Belanger this week. And then, like I said, I kind of laid out the rest of the week for you. We're going to talk with a female exorcist, the first non-denominational exorcist out there, and then Surrounded by Monsters with Paul Eno. That's what you can look forward to through the remainder of this week. All right, let's get back into the next news story.
Well, paranormal hunters claim shapes in a video shows proof of ghosts in the back of a museum's Victorian carriage. A lady, a man, and a child are claimed to be seen in the video shot inside the 167-year-old building. A video showing mysterious shapes as proof of ghosts sitting in the back of a Victorian carriage during a paranormal event at a museum, according to ghost hunters. Medium Pauline Day claims a lady, a man, and a child were seen in the back of a carriage at the Tolson Museum in Huddersfield, West Yorkshire last month. Footage of mysterious shapes in the carriage were recorded by an attendee over the ghost hunting event. Ms. Day of Holmfirth led 32 people around the museum in Ravensknoll Park for nearly 6 hours on May 27th. Afterwards, she said she had photographic evidence from her paranormal investigation. One of the attendees, Kath Clay, claims to have caught a key moment on tape, according to the Examiner. She said, "I have a video of shapes sat in the back of a carriage. I saw a lady first, and another medium came to have a look, saying, 'I think you have something there.' He saw the eyes, then I noticed a man and a child in the carriage as well."
Now, you're looking. Can you see the picture?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Can you see what they think they're seeing? Do you see a man, a woman, and a child in the back of this carriage?
Not so much, to be honest with you. No. No,
not so much, Dave.
That's just me, but no,
right.
Not so much, yeah.
Okay.
I then filmed the table where Pauline's husband, George, was doing table tipping. He got a lady, and he asked if she was the one in the carriage, and the table tipped to say yes, the 62-year-old who owns Bullecourt Museum in Milnesbridge added. The house was originally built back in 1850 and was opened as a museum in May 27th of 1922.
Very weird.
Yeah.
Is it just because maybe it's a murky picture, what you're looking at, do you think? Or
it's very murky. It's, you have to kind of read into it a little bit too, though. I mean, it's a little bit distorted. I mean, it's a little blurry, and you really have to read into the shadows a little bit in order to.
Well, that's how most people deal with photographs of what they believe to be the paranormal.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I'm even trying to stare at it and blur my eyes a little bit to see if I see what they're seeing, but I don't see it as clear as they do.
Okay.
Being honest with you.
No.
Just being honest with you.
Not a problem. Way to rain on their parade. All right, what have we got next?
Sorry about that. Paranormal Activity has spooked a former Open champion, Paul Lowry. Former Open, and this is in golf, folks. Former Open champion Paul Lowry is convinced his house is haunted. Lowry, who won the major title at Carnoustie, I believe, in 1999. I'm not that big of a golf fan, by the way. Made the admission during a lighthearted video interview published on the tournament's official website ahead of this year's event at Royal Birkdale. When he was asked whether he was more scared of bees or ghosts, he said, "I was lying in my bed one night and I had my iPad on my stomach as I was watching a film. The bathroom is on the right of our bed, and I just happened to look at the door, and there was a face. It was one of those double look moments, and as I looked back, it drifted into the bathroom. It was the scariest thing ever."
Holy cow.
The 48-year-old who lives in Aberdeen added, "When I woke up in the morning and my wife opened her eyes, I said to her, 'You're not going to believe what happened to me last night.' I told her the story, and she said she believed me because I don't usually believe in stuff like that. And we're in the same house, or still in the same house. I don't know what room the ghost stays in, but he was in my room that night." Jean Vandevelde could be forgiven for being haunted by Lowry's victory at, I believe it's Carnoustie, 18 years ago, after a triple bogey 7 at 18th cost the Frenchman the title, but he said in an interview last year that he was at peace with his meltdown and added, "It never wakes me up in a cold sweat." So there you go.
No, but the ghosts do.
Evidently, yeah. No fear on the golf course, but plenty of fear when it comes to ghosts.
I don't blame him. All right, where are we going next, sir?
We're going to the Paris catacombs, Dave, where teens were found after being lost there in the Paris catacombs for 3 days. 2 teenagers were taken to the hospital on Wednesday after being found in the Paris catacombs. The Guardian reports that the teenagers aged 16 and 17 had been lost somewhere in the 200 miles of bone tunnels, which have an ambient temperature of right around 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Both were treated for hypothermia after rescue workers found them early in the morning on their 3rd day there. A spokesman for the Paris...
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I know, right? 3 days in the tunnels. A spokesman for the Paris Fire Department said that, as usual, we should be grateful for dogs. It was thanks to the dogs that we found them. Certain parts of the catacombs are open to the public, but the majority of the galleries have been off limits since 1955. That doesn't stop daredevils and very cool teens from breaking in through various secret entrances around the city.
Dummies.
I know.
I wonder how many bodies they find down there throughout the years.
I don't know. That's a good question.
That weren't there to begin with is my point.
Right. No one is exactly sure how the teens got in there or who notified authorities that they probably needed help, but happily their bones did not join those of the 6 million other souls that are down there.
Well, they dodged that one.
Boy, did they ever. Just
Could you imagine being stuck down there for 3 days?
That would be a little eerie. That'll be
a lot of eerie. That's just creepy as hell. To be in the Paris catacombs surrounded by bones for 3 days in that dark. And no phone charger? No Facebook? No Twitter?
Yeah, I know. What would you do? I know. What would you do? I mean, how do you do Snapchat with all those skulls around? After a while, you lose perspective. There's nothing new to take.
Right. All right.
Only so many filters. We go to the friendly skies, so to speak, or not so friendly skies. 6 U.S. Air Force fighter jets are spotted chasing a mysterious red-orange 30-foot sphere UFO over Georgia. UFO researchers are investigating a report by a resident of Tai, southern Georgia, that he sighted a group of United States Air Force jets apparently escorting or chasing a red-orange sphere UFO across the sky at an altitude of about 600 feet, according to the unnamed witness in a testimony filed on March 4th, 2017 as case 82496 in the reporting database of the Mutual UFO Network, or MUFON as the kids call it, Dave. He was stargazing with a telescope outside his home at about 10 p.m. on February 21st in Tai, a town in Tift County, Georgia, about 100 miles east of Columbus, Georgia, when he heard jet engine sounds coming from the north. He looked northwards in the direction of jet engine sounds and noticed in the dark sky a row of flashing white strobe lights and a reddish-orange ball or sphere in the middle. The lights approached gradually at an altitude of about 600 feet until he could see that there were 6 military fighter jets that appeared to be chasing or escorting a mysterious sphere UFO that had a red-orange color, that according to Open Minds TV. I first heard low-speed jet engines north of me, the witness stated. I turned to see what it was. I saw a row of flashing white strobe lights with a reddish-orange ball or sphere in the middle coming towards me, moving real slow. The witness was stunned, but he had the presence of mind to notice several interesting details about the flight. As the military jets and the mysterious sphere UFO flew overhead, he noticed that one of the escorting jets flew about 500 feet to the west of the UFO, and while the other flew about 500 feet to the east, 4 other jets brought up the rear, flying at about 1,000 feet behind the UFO. He was also struck by the low...
this is one of the rare cases where it's definitely being escorted or surrounded.
Right, exactly.
Interesting.
He was also struck by the low altitude of the flight and the unusually slow speed of the jets in the UFO. What was so strange about it was how low and slow they were all flying and flew directly over the top of me. He estimated the diameter of the reddish-orange sphere UFO at about 30 feet. It had no strobe lights. As the crafts flew directly overhead, the jet flying 500 feet to the west of the UFO did a banking turn to the left as it was positioned behind the sphere UFO. The witness then watched as the formation flew overhead until it disappeared behind a row of trees about a mile away to the south. The witness recalled that the UFO and the escorting military jets continued flying southward in a straight path until they were hidden from sight by the row of trees. The witness had thought that the crafts were flying towards Moody Air Force Base, but he later realized that they could have been approaching the Air Force Base, or couldn't have, rather, been approaching the Air Force Base because the base was located southeast while the jets and the UFOs had flown straight south until they were out of sight. I don't know of any airport that would have been straight south of me, he said. Any help on this ordeal would be more than I have now, is what the witness went on to say. MUFON's representatives in Georgia investigated the case and concluded that the sighting was clearly an unknown other sighting event. The investigators observed that although the witness was able to easily recognize 6 USAF fighter jets, he was unable to identify the 30-foot diameter sphere UFO. According to witness, the sphere UFO was unlike any man-made flying craft he had ever seen. The evidence clearly leads to the conclusion that this was an unknown other sighting event, the investigators wrote in their report. However, the 30-foot glowing reddish-orange orb was being escorted by very recognizable jet planes. The investigators were also unable to confirm whether the pilots knew what the orb was or whether it was a USAF experimental craft. They were also unable to determine the destination of those crafts.
Now, what do you think, Tim? In all honesty, if you've got that many planes around it, and it's being surrounded and it's not trying to evade, right? Do you believe that this is just one of our own craft? Or
I do.
I wonder if they're transporting energy. Because these orange balls of light have been seen a lot, and I'm wondering if it's some kind of form of energy that they're containing. So it's not necessarily a craft, but an energy, and that they're creating a net, like an electronic net or something around it with the way they were flying.
It's a decent hypothesis too. I truly believe it was some sort of experimental craft or some sort of experimental military something or another on our part. I don't think it was anything hostile by any means, especially in the formation that they're describing and how low and slow it was flying. It seems like it was something where it was a careful detail to get it back to a calculated spot.
Okay, hear me out on this. Let me throw out this idea. Because other planes have been around these balls of light before. What if these planes are projecting this imaginary ball of light or craft between them? What if these are military runs, so that they're like, okay, we've got a jet, we've got a North Korean jet in our airspace, scramble, and they have to scramble and surround the light and force it down and do these things. And I wonder if it's like a contained target practice, if you will.
But a target practice on what?
Well, I'm just saying, now you're thinking target like they're getting something to shoot at. I mean that they have a target, they have to surround it, they have to get it down. I'm wondering if this is some kind of like a projected plasma ball or energy ball, so they're practicing military runs.
Right, no, I get what you mean, a military exercise to contain something and then bring it back. But what are they, like a military exercise, like they run them all the time in downtown Minneapolis, but
we're getting closer to closer. Let's just say it this way, right? Every day it appears that we're getting closer and closer to some kind of conflict from somewhere. So maybe the idea is they're just doing practice runs to, this is how we would intercept. But what's really interesting is, and I don't know if you have this news story, there's some news story going around, Anonymous is involved in, saying that they believe NASA is very close to admitting aliens and that there is something going on. So you start seeing military excursions like this. Could that be them escorting the alien craft, or could it be them doing a rehearsal run? Just, I don't know, like you said, but it also could just be that they're practicing doing this with something in between them that's safe and isn't going to go off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
Interesting. All right. Look, I'm on your side on this one, Tim. I'm thinking it might be more of a military exercise. Are you proud of me?
I'm impressed.
All right.
I'm impressed.
What else have you got for me now?
Well, this is a Roswell incident update. An expert obtains top secret documents proving that aliens have crashed in New Mexico. Allegedly. I'll throw the allegedly in there myself. The Roswell incident in New Mexico back in 1947 is the most compelling and most talked about UFO sighting ever reported. And Daily Star reports that a UFO expert, that is in quotes, by the way, in this article, has claimed to have in her possession ultra-secret leaked government documents proving that the UFO crash did happen. Heather Wade, a paranormal expert and paranormal talk radio host, claims that she obtained a top-secret U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, or DIA document from an unnamed source. The DIA document, she says, contains a detailed report on how the UFO crashed in New Mexico. On June 2nd, 1947, the U.S. Air Force announced in a press release that a flying saucer crashed on a ranch in Roswell. Before long, the military retracted its statement, claiming that the UFO was just a crashed air balloon. Ms. Wade says that the leaked government documents in her possession shows proof that the U.S. government has not been telling the entire truth about the Roswell incident. The said document describes 4 decaying alien bodies found 2 miles from the crash site a week later after the Roswell incident was reported. Aerial reconnaissance discovered that the 4 small human-like beings had apparently ejected from the craft at some point before it exploded. These had fallen to Earth at least 2 miles east of the crash site where the wreckage was located. All of the 4 alien crew members were dead and badly decomposed, the supposed leaked document stated. Additionally, the DIA contains a detailed report of alien technologies that had been studied by renowned scientists Dr. Robert Oppenheimer and Dr. Vannegar Bush. A statement on the site for Heather Wade's radio show Midnight in the Desert claims that the DIA report was obtained from a trusted source. However, the name of the source has not been revealed. The radio host said she submitted the DIA report to Stanton Friedman, a nuclear physicist and Roswell investigator. British UFO investigator Nick Redfern, however, dismissed Wade's Roswell documents as fake, adding that the timing of the reveal was suspicious owing to the Roswell incident's 70th anniversary occurring next month. For over 20 years, residents of Roswell, as well as thousands of truth seekers and UFO enthusiasts from around the world, have been commemorating the Roswell UFO crash annually on the alleged crash site, according to Roswell UFO Festival. The 70th anniversary Roswell UFO Festival will have more than 30 speakers discussing their theories about UFOs and aliens in general. And with that in mind, what do you think, Dave? Do you think that Heather Wade's supposed top secret document has credence, or do you believe?
Here's what the issue is I have, and this is purely coming from an ego standpoint.
Okay.
And I don't mean it to sound rude.
Okay.
But Heather's been at this for, about a year now?
A year or 2, yeah.
Right. And she took over for Art Bell when Art Bell's show, Art decided he could no longer do it for the safety of his family.
Correct.
I just have a hard time believing that whoever this person is leaking the information wouldn't have brought it to somebody with a much grander scale audience like George Norrie, or any one of us that are coast-to-coast hosts. You would think that they would want it brought to that platform instead of an internet podcast-based only show. Now, I could be wrong, and I'm not trying to put Heather down at all. I think she's an amazing interviewer and a great host. I just, to me, that just doesn't resonate. But I guess if somebody feels a kinship with you and they decide you're the one they want to release the information to, that's how it's going to go. I don't know that I necessarily... I get where this speculation comes in from Nick Redfern saying, yeah, it's kind of interesting that this is coming up right at the 70th anniversary.
Right.
But as I'm trying to remember who we just spoke to about that, kind of in that same vein was the idea, well, a lot of these guys, were sworn to secrecy until the last man standing. So it may have been one of those moments where it's last man standing is finally able to release some of this information, and they're doing it in time for the 70th anniversary. If you're going to wait, do you want to do it for the 68th or 69th, or do you want to do it for the 70th?
That could be. I mean, the other part of this too that nobody's saying anything about is for all intents and purposes, Art is still loosely connected to Midnight in the Desert through Heather. He doesn't, every once in a while he pops up or makes an appearance. That doesn't mean that, or it could mean that document could have been fed to Heather through Art, and it could have come from one of Art's sources. I don't know if that
Possibly.
lends any.
I just have a hard time believing that it's real. I hope for her sake it is. That'd be an amazing scoop, and I congratulate her anyway for breaking the story.
Yeah.
All right, where are we going next?
Let's see. What do we have left here? Let's go to the world of television, where the Sherlock team, the team that has brought you Sherlock.
Yes, I just read about this. Yes.
With Butterscotchery.
Sorry,
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. What's the guy's name again? The Doctor Strange actor, Butterscotchery.
Oh, that's Benny Dumberlitch.
Yeah, Dumbleditch, yeah. Him and
yeah.
They're reuniting for a new Dracula series. Evidently, the Sherlock team is. Dracula
is it the actors or is it Stephen Moffat and
it's actually
Mark Gatiss?
It's Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat. Yeah, I don't want to get people all excited and thinking that Lemony Snicket is going to actually be Dracula.
That would be awesome too, though. How awesome would that be for them to do that, bring it back and make Benedict Cumberbatch be Dracula and oh God, why can I not remember the other actor's name? He's an amazing actor. God, I apologize if he's listening. I have it on good authority. He's a huge fan of the show. Anyway, to have him be Van Helsing, wouldn't that be awesome to make them that part? We can only pray. That'd be a great series. But Gatiss and Moffat have been behind Doctor Who the last 3 years, 4 years of Doctor Who. Oh, no, I guess longer than that now. What about the last 6, 7 years of Doctor Who? And then they've been instrumental in the Sherlock reboot, which has been truly some of the best TV I've ever seen. Have you watched any of the Sherlock series?
A little bit, yeah. Not a lot, but a little bit. And what I've seen, I've enjoyed.
I would say that this is really exciting to me that they're going to tackle Dracula, and they'll do it in these like mini-series formula. That I think is going to be great. I'll definitely be ready to see what they do with this.
Well, Dracula is getting the Sherlock treatment, with the writers and producers of the hit BBC detective series reuniting for a new take on the Bram Stoker vampire classic. As Dave mentioned, Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat will write the series, and Sue Virtue's Hartswood Films will produce. Work on the new series has yet to begin in earnest, as Gatiss and Moffat are currently working on solo projects, but talks are already underway with the BBC, which enjoyed huge success with Sherlock on broadcast rights in the UK. Dracula will adopt the same format as Sherlock, with a miniseries run on feature-length episodes. Sherlock propelled Benedict Cumberbatch to international stardom for Lemony Snicket Cumberbun. To international stardom for his portrayal of Holmes, with scripts not yet written. Casting for Dracula is some way off. Alongside British producer Hartswood, U.S. and other international partners are expected to board the new project. BBC Worldwide is the pubcaster's commercial arm and sells Sherlock internationally, and it has become one of the distributor's biggest titles in recent years.
Very cool.
Dracula will be the first collaboration between Moffat and Gatiss since the last Sherlock episode aired in Britain in January. They have said there are no current plans for a new series of Sherlock, but have not ruled out returning to write more episodes in the future. Yeah,
I think it's going to all depend on how the main two actors' careers continue to go. If they ever start to get that slowdown and lag, I can guarantee you, son, they will be back for one more season or an offshoot, surprise episode. It would be silly to leave it be. It's an amazing series, even if you made people wait every other year for it. They do like 3 feature-length film episodes, and they're great. So I definitely, if you have not seen it yet, I believe it's on Netflix. If it's not there, Amazon for sure, but check it out. It's some of the best TV ever. And if you love procedural crime dramas, you'll love this. And the characters and it's so smart and fun and elegantly written, directed, and acted. It's really one of those lightning in a bottle shows. So, that's all I've got to say about that. Tim, what else have we got going on?
Well, finally tonight, you can watch a kid become a Ghostbuster for a day with Dan Aykroyd's help. Actually, Dan Aykroyd's done a lot for the Ghostbuster franchise, and has done a lot for charity, as a matter of fact, as well. And he's putting the two together. According to this story, believe it or not, Dave, the world can be a pretty crappy place.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing.
That's what it says here. But one thing everyone agrees on is that making the dreams of sick kids come true is incredibly awesome, and that's what recently happened for an 8-year-old Iowa boy named Braden Rios. Rios, who suffers from bronchiomalacia, has been a Ghostbusters fan for his whole life. So the For the Win project, with the help of Sony Pictures, flew him and his family to Los Angeles, where he became a Ghostbuster for the day. It all began with a call to action via a phone call from Ray Stantz himself, Dan Aykroyd. And in addition to, there's a video in this story as well, but in addition to that, Rios and his family were greeted by a video that included special messages from Ghostbusters directors Ivan Reitman and Paul Feig. The superfan also got to use props from the original and rebooted films, have a full photo shoot and film shoot, and more. Then on June 8th, For the Win arranged a screening for Rios and his family back in their hometown to rewatch the whole experience. Finally, Rios had a unique Ghostbusters poster put together, a staple of For the Win project, which was created by co-founders Jamie Trueblood and Jesse Wilson. It's kind of cool because it's got the kid and his Ghostbusters jumpsuit and his equipment. And you've got to see it. It says Braden stars in Ghostbusters coming soon, and he's standing on top of the Ghostbusters car, and it's a cool movie poster.
Aykroyd is just a class act. I mean, he's been so good to our show, and he is just, from everybody that I ever talked to when they come into contact with the guy, he's just one of the nicest humans on planet Earth.
Yeah. So. Way to go For the Win! Way to make Braden's dream come true, and way to make that little boy's life just a little more happier in some sad circumstances. So.
No doubt. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back, and it's time for you to shine, world. We're going to start with ParaShare. We'll do that when we return to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness.
Beyond the Darkness.
Welcome back to Beyond the Darkness. Hey, let's take a look at some ParaShare, Tim. Do you like that?
I like it.
Like to hear from our listeners, hear what they have to say?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, me too. Especially when we have great listeners from around the world. And when we get these emails, Tim, I've been getting them from around the world again lately. Here's a perfect example. Hi, Dave. First of all, thanks for the great podcast. I live over here in Ireland, and I look forward to seeing the new shows pop up in my podcast app every day. You're a great interviewer, and I find the shows fascinating and enjoy them a lot, so thank you. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you, Noel. Now, with that out of the way, I'd like to tell you a weird story about something I noticed after listening to the show you did about synchronicities. Now, I met up with a buddy of mine on Saturday for a coffee and just had a general catch-up on what's been happening during the week. After a while, I began to tell him about the Synchronicities podcast and relayed some of the stories that the guest had told. I reminded him of a strange coincidence we experienced recently whereby we were talking about an old school friend one day and how we haven't seen or heard from him in ages. And I'm talking like 10 plus years. Then, about a month ago, we're strolling through town and we almost bumped into this guy. And literally, since that day, we see him nearly every time we meet up. But get this, as I reminded him about that weird coincidence and was specifically talking about this mutual friend, Sean, my buddy, said, "Look out the window now." As I turned around, you'll never guess who was walking past the coffee shop. but our old friend Sean. We just had a bit of a laugh over it, and I started to tell him more about the podcast, and this is the way it gets really, really weird. I said if this whole synchronicities thing was really true, then to prove it, we would have to experiencing something totally out of the norm. And I laid out an example that it would be like us walking out of the coffee shop, seeing an old high school friend that we've not seen for a long time, but also have not spoken about or thought about, so that they were not even in our mind. If we saw them, we knew this whole synchronicities thing would be real. We're in the coffee shop for about 30 minutes or so. The conversation has moved on to other things, and to be honest, we'd forgotten about the conversation about the podcast. We get up to leave and walk out of the shop and turn right. I look up and I say to my buddy, "Hey, is that Paul over there? Up there on the left?" And sure enough, just a little bit further up the way was an old friend of ours who neither of us had seen since college about 10 years ago. My buddy hasn't seen him in maybe 13 years. We both just stood there. We were shocked for a second and then just laughed and said, well, there's our answer. There must be something to this synchronicity stuff. It was really, really weird and definitely has made me think about things. And I will try to look out for other weird coincidences in the future. Anyway, I thought I'd write in and share this story with you because it happened so soon after listening to that podcast episode. Thanks again for everything you and Tim do, the Army of Darkness. We appreciate your hard work. All the best and have a great day. And that's from Noel in Ireland.
Wow.
Well, thank you, Noel. We appreciate that. That's really kind of a cool email to get. I'll tell you, Tim, I know you haven't been here but for the Monday shows because of your health and timing situations, but we talked on the Synchronicity show. And, I thought I'd cover a little bit about this today with you. I had a really great time out in my California adventure last week, right? Mm-hmm. I get a chance to go out and talk with Adam Carolla, and he was very gracious about us sharing our show and our true crime show. Also got a chance to sit with Tom Arnold. And boy, is this guy fun and fascinating, although I was completely sure at some point his head was going to blow off of his shoulders. He is a great guy, but man, does he get wound up easy. And he is just so excitable. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean he's got a million questions firing off all at the same time, points that he wants to make and go to. And it was a great, fun conversation. Now, both of those episodes aired last week, Monday and Wednesday. You can go to podcast 1, and why not check it out, the Adam Carolla show. Find the Darkness Dave episode there, and go to the Tom Arnold show, and check that out as well. Both are really fun, totally kind of different interviews altogether, and we get into some really interesting aspects and things I just don't normally talk about. So we cover both of those. I've got another episode coming up with Tim, one of my favorite comedians, Jay Moore. Great actor. He's a fun guy, and just watching his shows and everything, he's one of those kind of guys I always thought, this is the kind of guy you could be best friends with and have a beer with. He just comes down as the most natural, nice, kind guy. And all of these synchronicities after we did the Synchronicity show last week just started to unfold in front of me. Because I was sitting there thinking, I just watched his special, I don't know, like 2 or 3 weeks ago with my one of my kids, and he wanted to see it. Was laughing because it's total dad comedy in a lot of the bits. He's talking about raising his son and just how weird and off-putting it can be. And again, I was in that kind of mode of, this guy's just great. I wish I could meet him. And then I get a call, Jay Moore wants you to be on his show. So that's an interesting synchronicity. We go in and we have this great conversation, which I can't wait for him to air because it was so interesting. And he's really into this. He's had multiple paranormal experiences, including a near-death experience, Tim.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It is. I don't want to give anything away because I want people to go listen to this episode, but it would definitely make you think the Lord was out to get our friend Jay Moore one day. But he found the silver lining in these stories, and it is remarkable. It was really great to hear this. Well, here we make this great connection on the air. And by the way, he told me to send his love. He loves you. He listens to our show all the time.
Really?
That blew me away. He said, sent me this personal email before I even arrived saying, I can't wait to do this interview. I've always got you queued up. I love your guys' show. And he wanted me to make sure to send some love your way because of your injuries and what you're dealing with, and wanted you to know he was thinking about it. And this isn't just some psychobabble from a celebrity, right? This guy is full of heart and is truly one of the nicest humans I've ever had a chance to meet. And we clicked. Afterwards, we're there and we're wrapping up, and our good friend Dre, who's been a contributor and helper on the show, she started to talk about her near-death experience. And Jay opened up to me about a lot of things. And Tim, all I can tell you is in that conversation in that afternoon I spent with Jay, he helped allay more of my fears about death and living than I've done in 12 years of doing the show.
Really?
It really, it's not completely gone, dude. I'm still terrified of death, but it's like a 2-ton boulder came off my shoulder. Because he gave me a different perspective on life, which I thought was so beautiful and simple. But he was relating some of his stories in his life and how his life goes down. And he said, Dave, just be brave and do good things while you're out there. And I was like, geez, you're right. I mean, don't worry about the rest. If you live life without fear, and it doesn't mean without respect of death, But if you just live your life and do this openly, it's amazing. And Jay and I also shared, I talked to him about my suicide attempt when I was a teenager and my connection with Bruce Springsteen music, to which he knew the song and was like reciting it back to me, specific points in the song that he knew meant something to me. That was uncanny. And then this other really weird synchronicity opened up for me, Tim. And I mentioned this on the show last week, but I thought I'd talk to you about it as well. And for listeners that didn't get to hear that, that day, that night when I almost took my own life as a teenager because of something stupid, right? I heard that song numerous, like 10, 12 times that night in a row. Whatever station I turned to, synchronicity was working in my favor. Fate, whatever. The angels, the universe, God, that song kept appearing on station after station until I heard the message, which was, you can get through this. You're not alone. And Springsteen music, as you know, has lifted me up through the years and has, kept me alive in my darkest times and in my scariest times, right? Mm-hmm. And then it came raining down on my head when we're doing the show. And I think you'll appreciate this, Tim. You remember last year when I went to go meet Bruce Springsteen.
Right.
I mean, how long has that been in coming, right? We've tried a million ways to figure out how to meet him when he's in town, and nothing ever comes together. And everything synced up perfectly so that I had the time. I could go to California. I could meet Bruce. I was there for a day, back in the next day, and I got a chance to meet him, get his autographed book, and kind of hit this lifelong endeavor. And it was really neat. It was when I did get to meet Springsteen. And we shook hands. He made great eye contact, and I just said, your music saved my life. And he just got this great, peaceful smile on his face, and he said, that's good. That's real good. And then he posed for this picture. And then the synchronicity that just struck me the other day was the day I was there to meet Bruce Springsteen, I got the most devastating news of my life. Because as I was about 10 to 15 minutes away from meeting him, and I'd gone out the day before, slept outside on the sidewalk in this line with 1,200 of my closest friends, right, that were all in line to meet Bruce. As I got closer to meet Bruce Springsteen, my phone rang, and it was my father. And he said, I've got bad news. And he goes, I don't think your mom's going to make it. And it hit me, and I said, I'll come home. And he said, no. He goes, Mom wants you to meet Bruce Springsteen. It would break her heart if you didn't do this. Go meet Bruce Springsteen. And here it was, one of the darkest moments of my life again. And there was Bruce Springsteen to lift it back up. So it's just like, what a fascinating circumstance. 2 of the darkest days in my life, and his music and being there is coordinated. Do you call that synchronicity? Do you call that fate, Tim? What exactly do you think that was?
I would. I'd a little of both. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are certain. I don't know if you could almost call it like a talisman too, or some sort of. I don't know that talisman is the right term that I want to use, but something.
Bruce is my spirit monkey.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah. In times where I almost went with a Beatles lyric there. In times of trouble. Yeah. In times where you need it most, it's there, or it gives you the message that you need. But it tends to come from a source that you will listen to, or a source that you need, or a source that will kind of hit you right between the eyes, and that happens to be your source. So yeah, I have no doubt. Yeah, that at the times when you need that message, you get it, and you get it loud and clear, and you get it from the source that you're wanting to listen, that you will listen to, and and will hit you clear between the eyes.
And I'll tell you too, even thinking about it a little bit deeper now, his autobiography came out in Audible form after my mom passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember I was listening to that back and forth on Audible,
mm-hmm.
as I would go back and forth to the studio when we were recording and doing these things. And if you're just a fan of rock and roll, everybody should listen to this guy's autobiography because it's amazing. Born to Run. And I'm not just saying that as a Springsteen fan, but it gives you insights into the rock world and what it's like to be a musician and make it, and how you think. I mean, this guy was scraping by when Born to Run was out, and he was on the cover of Time and Newsweek simultaneously, and he was still barely getting by. Mm-hmm. And you hear just this remarkable story, but you hear about his struggles with depression and suicidal thoughts and just crying for no reason. And it really resounded because it's not just reading the page, but he tells this story. You hear it from the author's mouth, and not often do you get to hear somebody expose their soul that openly. But it's a fascinating book, and I would recommend anybody out there, if you have not heard it, check out the Audible version of his book, because it's really impactful to hear his story from his mouth, not just reading the words on a page, but actually hearing him tell it, because it's unbelievable. And to know that, hey, he's just like all the rest of us, right? All these celebrities that we look up to, they're just like us. They have their problems. Some are more public about the issues, like Charlie Sheen, Others are quieter, and you don't realize Springsteen's dealt with all of this in his life. But it's really kind of fascinating, and it gives me light, because it made me realize that no matter how dark things get in your world, no matter how bad they get, you can lift yourself up. So that's all I have to say about it. Talking about the synchronicities and things, and having this kind of re-unfold in front of me, it really does put things in a weird perspective, Tim. So I thought I'd just share that aspect with you. I know you didn't have a chance to really listen to everything being in and out of the hospital, but I know that you've had synchronicities and weird things in your life, and just thought it'd be kind of interesting to talk with you about this as well.
Most definitely, yeah.
All right, let's get back into some more of the emails that we've gotten here. Here comes one from Heather, and she says, really enjoy the show. Thanks for reading, and I would love your opinion on my personal encounter. My story is about a paranormal experience I had while checking out a house my husband and I were interested in that was on the market. I had a very bizarre and unsettling experience while touring the upstairs by myself. Before I begin, I'd like to preface the following by saying that I'm not a psychic, nor am I a clairvoyant, nor do I consider myself as sensitive. What happens has never happened to me before, and it shook me so bad it took a year before I even opened up about this to my husband. Now, it was a nice sunny day where we live in Clayton, North Carolina, which is about 20 minutes outside of the capital of Raleigh. In the market for a new home, my husband and 3-year-old daughter and I set out in the middle of the day to meet our realtor at a house we were interested in looking at. We were excited as any family would be at the prospect of finding our dream home. As we were nearing the neighborhood, the sky had turned dark and it began to rain. We pulled up to the house and the sky just poured and poured with heavy pellets of raindrops. It seemed somewhat bizarre because it looked like the sun was out off in the distance. Not really too abnormal, but just a little odd. We sat in the car thinking it would let up so we could get out, but the rain kept hammering down. Finally, we made a run for it to the porch of the house. Our realtor met us at the door and let us in. Then, of course, the rain stopped and the sun comes out. Go figure. Looking back at this entire experience, I often wonder if the heavy rain was simply nature or something paranormal and foreboding or something trying to keep us away. I've heard of nature playing a part in trying to keep people from a certain location. Was this the case? Maybe, maybe not. And that's her words, not mine. I'm not judging already, Tim. The outside of the house was a nice 2-story modern home built in the 1990s. Wow, back in the 1990s, Tim.
What was that like?
I know, right?
Yeah.
It was painted a light, tasteful yellow and was at the end of a cul-de-sac and sat on a small hill. There were several other houses in the neighborhood, so it's not like we were isolated in the middle of nowhere or anything. The inside was very nice. Hardwood floors, modern appliances, nice cabinets in the kitchen, big fenced-in backyard, a nice welcoming house. There was no furniture or anything in the house other than the major kitchen appliances, so no one was currently living there. Alive, at least. We walked around the downstairs, happily admiring every aspect of the house. we commented to the realtor that we really liked what we saw so far. My husband and daughter went outside to check out the nice big backyard, excitedly walking around, probably talking about all the fun stuff we could do back there with a big backyard. Meanwhile, our realtor had to jump on a phone call. I used this opportunity to explore the upstairs by myself. Oh, that's ominous, Tim.
Oh,
Does she never learn from a horror movie? You never go anywhere by yourself.
No, you don't.
Feeling happy and positive about the house and wanting to see what the upstairs looked like, I began ascending the stairs. Right as I got to the middle of the stairs, I abruptly stopped as I suddenly felt this heavy feeling. It was like the air or atmosphere shifted. It felt very heavy, and I felt this feeling of dread. I don't know how else to explain it. It wasn't fear or sadness or anything necessarily evil, but a feeling of dread and despair. There was a brief moment where I debated whether to finish climbing the stairs, but I pressed on. I thought maybe it's nothing. Maybe I'm just feeling weird things for some reason. When I reached the top of the stairs, I immediately knew where this heavy feeling and dread were originating from. I could feel it coming from my left in the master bedroom. So I did what any rational person would do. I turned to my right to check out the other bedrooms first. There were 2 bedrooms opposite of the master bedroom. I felt completely fine in those bedrooms. The air was light and normal. I checked them out, envisioning one being our daughter's bedroom and the other being my office as I worked from home. I started to feel like a normal person just touring the future home. When I finished inspecting the spare bedrooms, I turned to face the master bedroom and knew I now needed to go in there to finish this personal tour I decided to take myself on. I didn't want to go in there, but we didn't drive here in the pouring rain for me to chicken out at this point. I slowly walked into the master bedroom, which was like the rest of the house. It was void of any furnishings, and I just stood there feeling that heavy feeling and sense of dread, but there was nothing there. I turned to my right to walk into the master bathroom. I immediately knew this feeling was coming from there. I don't know how I knew, but again, I'm not a psychic or anything, but I did not want to go in there. I proceeded to walk into the master bathroom anyway, and even though it was light in there from the window, I turned the light switch on anyway. When I looked at the houses, I like to turn the lights on to get the full effect to see what the rooms look like. Plus, I was feeling a bit apprehensive, so a little extra light in the room couldn't hurt. I looked to my left and saw there was a toilet there. Okay, cool. I looked next to it and saw the big garden bathtub. I thought that looks great for a nice relaxing bath. So far, so good. I'm okay in here. Nothing going on. I turned to my right to see the shower with glass walls, or what I assume is glass. I reached out to pull the handle on the shower door so I could further inspect the inside. I don't know if my hand actually touched the shower door handle or if this happened before I touched it, as I honestly can't remember. But that was the moment I experienced something I'd never experienced before. A vision of something that happened, or what I can only assume happened here at some point. All of a sudden, I was looking at the shower, but there was a man inside of it, and what appeared to be a man. His back was facing me, and he was completely naked. He was just standing there, arms resting down at his sides, standing completely still. He was Caucasian, had black hair, and his hair was a bit shaggy, like maybe he was starting to grow it out and needed a haircut. The shower was on, with water running down his back, his hair wet. All of a sudden, I saw blood running down his back. It was just pouring down his back. Again, the man stood perfectly motionless. I didn't see any open wounds or anything, just blood. Lots and lots of bright red blood running down his back. I didn't get any sense that the man was bad or going to turn around and come after me or anything. If I had to describe what I felt and perceived, I would say that he was a victim. And then, all of a sudden, that was it. Whatever state I was in, where I was having this vision, I snapped out of it and was back in reality. Only the shower was empty, and it was when I walked in. It was as empty as it was when I walked into the bathroom. I stood there stunned at what just happened. I couldn't move. Did this just really happen? What exactly happened? I wasn't daydreaming. I know that daydreaming is like, and this was not some episode where I just decided to stare off into space and think about something. This was real. It felt like I was there looking at this man. All I know is that I reached for that shower handle and was thrown into some alternate reality, like something out of a movie. I then reached for the shower door handle again and pulled it open, only it wouldn't open. It was stuck. I had to lift up on it and pull to get it to open. It was as if the door was broken. I looked in the shower and nothing seemed to miss. It just looked like a regular shower. So I closed the door, of course, after some lifting and pushing to get it closed, and then looked at the wall where the mirrors and the sinks were. The paint job was so bad, like someone rushed to get the bathroom looking decent. It made me wonder what happened in here to make the bathroom look messed up. I looked off in the distance past the sinks and saw a door open, which led into the walk-in closet. I didn't even bother checking it out. I'd had enough. Freaked out about what just happened, I walked out, went downstairs, told the realtor and my husband that I'd seen enough of the house and it just wasn't for me, and I walked out the front door. I didn't tell our realtor or my husband what had happened. I didn't want to scare the realtor, although the more likely scenario would have been she might have thought I was crazy. So I just left it alone and just said the house was nice, but just not the right fit for us. My husband didn't really ask any questions. I told him later I just didn't like it. When we came home, I couldn't stop thinking about what happened. I honestly couldn't explain it, and every time I thought about it, all I could see was the blood running down the man's back. I pulled out my laptop and looked up the house listing. I clicked on the pictures of the house, and as I scrolled through the photos, the memory of that feeling of dread hit me like a ton of bricks when the picture of the master bathroom came up. I started searching online to see if I could find any details on the house, the location, anything, but I found nothing. Of course, I didn't spend too much time on it. I closed the laptop and just decided to forget about it and chalk it up to a weird, unexplainable experience. About a year later, after we'd been settled into our new house that we bought, my husband and I started talking about all the house hunting we'd done. I decided to bring up the experience I had. He remembered the house I was talking about. I told him the whole story about how freaked out I was. He felt bad and asked why I never told him. I explained that the whole experience just shocked and scared me, and honestly, I figured people would just think I was crazy. Now, the next day, when he came home from work, he told me that he looked up some information about the house online. Apparently, a year prior to us looking in that house, there was a murder in that neighborhood. He didn't get a sense that it was the actual house we looked at, as it didn't say. It just talked about the neighborhood. A man stabbed a woman to death. I'm not sure of any of the exact details. As I'm writing this right now, my husband and I both got online again to try to find this story he had found, but can't find anything so that I can provide the listeners here with further details. Also, the person I saw in my vision or experience I had appeared to me to be a man, not a woman. So perhaps those two incidents are not related. Or perhaps they could be. Or maybe my husband was mistaken on what he read online. Maybe the person in my vision was a woman. After all, I never saw the person's face or front side. Looking back on this now, I can't help but feel a little guilty that I didn't research this further, or maybe have our realtor research deaths in the house at the time. Perhaps someone was trying to show me something. Perhaps the victim was somehow asking for help. Or perhaps what I experienced was something residual, permanently imprinted in the house. Whatever the case may be, I hope this person, if in fact they were real and were the victim of a gruesome murder, were able to find peace. P.S. I really love your show. You and Dennis rock. And I hope to meet you both in person one day. That's from Heather Elliott in Clayton, North Carolina.
Thank you, Elliott.
Yes, yes, Dennis. That is a good story. Now, here's my thoughts on it. Right, you didn't see the front. I know some females that if you saw them from the back, you might think they were men, and that's not a slight, but it's their build and the hair. And from the back, you might mistake them for a slight man. So that doesn't seem too out of place for me. I also think what you should do is try, if you have the address of that still, Heather, look up diedinhouse.com. Diedinhouse.com. And then you can run a report. I think it's like $12 or $13. And if a murder took place in that house, you should be able to find that information out. Now, if it didn't, don't give up the search. Okay? Here's why. Everybody thinks that the hauntings come from our past. Keep an eye on that house. Maybe check in on it every 3 or 4 years. Maybe that murder has yet to happen, and you were picking up a psychic moment there. Maybe you were making that connection to what was to come in that house. That's just my 2 cents. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. Tim will tell you that.
Well,
be proud to tell
not too proudly, but I might shout it from the rooftops.
You son of a...
You might be onto something though there.
Or I might be onto something, yeah.
Might be a little bit of what do the psychics call it there, Dave?
Premonition.
A little bit. Yeah, that's what they call it. Yeah, premonition.
A prediction.
Yeah.
All right. Our next story begins. The following is a story that happened to me in the 1980s. Oh, I miss the 80s, Tim. God, I miss the 80s.
Me too.
I tell you, my girlfriend and I are going on an 80s dinner cruise coming up in July.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure we will be regaling the internet with pictures of me flashing back to my 80s days. And yes, Tim, I've bought an entire outfit that I think will make you laugh because I'm trying to recapture 1986, 87 Dave.
Oh, boy.
So don't sound so pleased about it.
Well, I worry for you.
No, you shouldn't. I'm going to reclaim that. And if I like it, I might just stick with this look and image again for the rest of my natural days, Tim.
Yeah, that's how the kids start to talk about plans of putting you in a home.
That's okay. If I can be in the home dressed like I want, looking like I can, and rocking out to great 80s music, sign me up, man. Sign me up. I don't need their tainted love. See what I did there?
You do see what you did.
Yeah. Anyway, the story takes place 86 or 87, I believe, on the east side of St. Paul at the intersection of Bradley Street and Maryland Avenue. Do you know where that area is, Tim?
I do, as a matter of fact.
It was approximately 11 at night, and I was lying on the couch when I heard a loud crash. I ran outside to see how... I keep waiting for the sound effects you always put in on Friday's show, and I failed it. It makes it hard now, Tim, because when I read things, I now hear the sound effects in my head, and I'm very disappointed when they're not there to accompany me. All right, I ran outside to see how bad of an accident it was, and when I got to Maryland Avenue, I saw that a motorcycle with 2 people on it had hit a car broadside that was turning onto Maryland. The driver and his passenger were thrown over the top of the car, with the driver landing in the street with his head against the curb, while the passenger was ejected onto the grass of the boulevard. I was running up to the scene, and as I was the first one there, except for a nurse dressed all in white, who was there when I arrived, she was already bending over the motorcycle driver whose head had hit the curb. She looked at me and told me that I have this one, you take care of the other. So I went over to the other passenger that had landed on the grass boulevard. When I got over to the boy that had landed on the boulevard, his hand was ripped open and he was in shock but conscious. I had to put pressure on his hand because he was bleeding profusely and then watch the nurse still bent over the other boy. Within a few minutes, other people started arriving, including a policeman. When the policeman arrived, he went over to the boy that had smashed his head against the curb, spoke with the nurse, looked at the boy, then came over to me and asked me how this one was doing. He looked at the one I was tending to and told me to keep pressure on the cut and to keep talking to him to keep him awake, and he went back over to the nurse that was taking care of the other kid. About this time, the ambulance could be heard in the background making its way to the scene of the accident. The policeman came back over to me and said that he didn't think the other one was going to make it and asked again how this one was doing. I told him this one was okay, but for now, but it was definitely going into shock and shaking because of the shock. Well, the policeman then met the ambulance, and they first looked at the badly injured boy, and the policeman came back to see about the one I was with. He asked me if I saw where the nurse went. I had not. By this time, a paramedic had arrived and taken over for me. The policeman was asking the crowd that gathered if they saw where the nurse had gone, and came over to me and took down my information. He again asked if I saw her, which I said, yes, I spoke with her. He said, no one else seems to know where she went. It's as if she just disappeared. Another motorcycle was with them, and I ended up giving a ride to the passenger of the motorcycle to pick up the badly injured's mother and drive her to the Ramsey Hospital. Having done this, I headed back home. The motorcycle driver was pronounced dead at the hospital. Was the nurse really an angel coming to take someone who was passing? Thanks. And that comes from Dave. Yeah, very well could be. I wouldn't be surprised if I was in a tragic accident, Tim, that my mom would appear as a nurse to take care of me and be there with me until my passing. That makes complete sense.
Yeah, someone from the other side comforting you until it was time to go.
Yeah, and we've heard stories of this. There have been these other phantom nurses and doctors that seem to just appear out of nowhere and help. And I think those are beautiful stories. I love those tales when they pop up. Yeah, it's definitely fascinating. You know, it's really kind of, here we go talking about synchronicity again, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was around I want to say 86, 87. My mom was driving in her car, which is how you drive most times. Outside of the car is a lot harder to do.
It is.
She was driving in her car, and she was passing this golf course when she watched this little plane, like a little 2 or 3 seater plane, come down and crash into the trees of the golf course. And the plane came down hard, and my mom pulled over. Just so happens where she pulled over, there, some of the other cars pulled over as well, but there was this big hole in the fence to the deal, and there was a guy standing there, and he lifted open the hole in the fence for my mom to go through. So my mom runs in there. She gets in there, and she is a nurse, fully trained nurse. She ran over, stabilized the one guy, and was helping the other. And the other guy had the steering column go through his chest. So my mom literally put her hand in his chest to create a vacuum seal, because when that's open, you can't breathe. The pressure in your chest is gone. Mm-hmm. So she reached in there, was covering the hole and holding his heart, basically, to keep him alive. It was really amazing that she was there at that moment, at that time. And they eventually came in. They were able to get them out. And the police told my mom, do you realize just how dangerous things were? And she's like, what do you mean? He said, you guys were about 20 feet away from the burning fuselage. That could have gone off at any time. And my mom never realized it. Never for 1 second stopped to worry about her own safety. She was there to help this guy. The guy survived.
Wow.
Yeah. Contacted my mom afterwards and thanked her profusely, and that was that. So just a strange twist of fate to be talk about being in the right place at the right time. And if you're going to have a crash, you had the right woman watching out for that crash. So,
just the sheer courage. I mean, seriously, most people could not think about taking their hand and shoving it into another human being's chest cavity.
Right.
And holding onto a heart and thinking, I gotta create a vacuum seal, and I just gotta do it until someone gets here.
Yeah. And it was amazing. And the first responders were like, geez, lady, you saved this guy's life. This is amazing. If he survives, he owes this all to you. And, that's why I'm so proud of the work that she did as a nurse, because she lived to be a nurse, and that's the way she went out. She never got to fully retire. She passed before she was able to fully retire. So she lived and died doing exactly what she loved to do.
Yeah.
Hi, Dave and Tim. When Tim read the story that Roswell may have been a downed plane or human experiment by the government, it reminded me of something my stepdad said. He was a Navy pilot in 1958 to 1989, and a very credible man. He rarely spoke about this kind of thing. In fact, this was the one and only time. But he did tell me that he flew missions where the cargo were small animals. He specifically mentioned cats, where their eyelids were removed and were flown into test areas where bombs were detonated to see how this affected the animals. Now, this was such a brief story, and I was so horrified, my face is an open book, so he ended the story and I didn't ask for any details. To be clear, he wasn't bragging or anything. It was definitely something he did not want to be doing. So, when I heard the possible Roswell explanation, it reminded me of that story. It makes me think that the explanation proposed could be serious, as I think that maybe government would want to desperately cover up human experiments if they were occurring. Anyway, all of my best to both of you and your families. And that comes from Rebecca. Thank you, Rebecca. That's wild, huh?
Yeah, that very much so, yeah.
Eyelids.
We did some crazy stuff way back when.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. We're a weird world. All right, I think we got time for one or two more stories here. Dear Dave and Tim. Hey, that's us. Good thing you wrote to us. Is that more of the synchronicity, Tim? This guy writes a letter and happens to send it to a Dave and Tim, and we are Dave and Tim?
That is a synchronicity, Dave.
No, it's not, Tim. He sent it to us because he listens to the show. That's really not synchronistic. I was trying to see if you'd jump on board with me there. Nice.
Sorry.
It's the drugs, isn't it? Dear Dave and Tim, tomorrow is the 10th anniversary of my father's passing. Losing my dad left a giant hole in my life, and I miss him terribly still. He was everything I strive to be for my own son and wife, kind, patient, strong, and always ready to listen. We shared so much together, including our love of the outdoors, hot rodding vintage cars, as well as a passion for history and the unexplained. Many weekends would find us camping in the mountains of New Mexico or in the shop wrenching together on our next project car. Now, a couple months after his death, I had a dream. Nothing so different as any others I'd ever had or have heard on your show, but I could easily over-examine it away. Now, I could tell myself it was my own mind seeking comfort by creating an experience to lessen the pain, but this time, just this once, I decided to just accept it and cherish the message and memory of the tale. I found myself walking down a 2-lane highway in the early evening. The air still warm from the afternoon heat, the smell of juniper pine and sagebrush in the air. Everything was beyond clean, the sky brilliant blue in the east and just beginning to burst with the colors of the sunset in the west, which was the way I was headed. The sounds were more sharp, the chirp of a bird, the crunch of the gravel under my feet. I walked on for a distance till I came to a small roadside park that was perfectly maintained. In the middle was a small office building, and as I approached, a park ranger came out smiling. We greeted each other with hellos and nice weather, but no names. Then I saw him look over my shoulder. He looked behind me and he began to grin. I heard the deep rumble of an engine gearing down as it dropped speed, and so I turned to see beside me. In the park came a 1950 Chevrolet Bel Air, deep blue with a white top, flipper hubcaps, and wide white wall tires. The car sat low to the ground and was the most perfect thing I'd ever seen. With the coming sunset reflecting off the chrome in the windshield, the dazzling colors of blue, purple, orange, and yellow made it possible for me to see inside. But as it came up beside us, the engine died, and I bent to peer inside. There, behind the wheel, was my dad. Not the dad I knew, but the young, handsome Eldon I only knew from pictures. White t-shirt, coal-black hair greased and combed straight back, strong, tanned arms, and a mischievous grin on his young face. Shocked, all I could say was a one-word question. "Dad?" "Hey, son," he said, and smiled. I stumbled with, Are you all right?" He smiled once more and told me he was. He then pointed west and told me he was going on now. For the first time, I looked a little further west and noticed the road dropped off into a valley, green and cool, beautiful and inviting. Turning back to him, he looked happy and said, "I'll go pick us out a real good spot." Something he always said when we went camping. He then started the car back up, but then hesitated, leaned towards me and said, "It's okay, son. It's just for a little while." He drove off. Then I watched till he was out of sight. The ranger patted my shoulder, and I turned and started walking back to the east, sad, but not quite as much as before. Thanks for letting me vent, and best wishes to you both. You both remain in my prayers daily, and that comes from Terry in Road Rockets, CC. I don't know where CC is, but thank you very much. What a beautiful story.
Yeah.
You know, although I've got to tell you, my inner Woody Allen dialogue would have kicked in. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Dad. I don't mean to bother you, but what do you mean it's not that long? What's just a little while, Dad? Am I joining you soon? I'd have been worried about what was the point of that deal, or was Dad just screwing with me, or meaning, hey, in the cosmic scheme of things, we'll be back together again soon. I'm sorry, I don't mean to bother you, Dad. It's beautiful to see you, but...
You decide to get all literal at that point.
Oh, God, yeah, that would be the moment. Well, who wouldn't? You know my fear of death and all. Hi, Dave. Mm-hmm. I have a topic I would love to hear you discuss on the show, an entity I think I encountered called Hat Man. Here's what happened. Well, first of all, Kevin, we've covered Hat Man numerous times. As a matter of fact, if you go back in our archives of Beyond the Darkness, I think in like the third or fourth episode, we did Shadow People, and we talked about Hat Man with one of the foremost experts on Hat Man. Didn't we do that, Tim? Wasn't that about the third or fourth episode?
Yeah.
And I feel horrible. What is her name? It's escaping me right now. Heidi Hollis.
Yes.
That's it, Heidi Hollis. So just look up Beyond the Darkness, Heidi Hollis, and Hat Man, Shadow Man. You'll find that episode. But let's go back to Kevin's story. Here's what happened. When I was about 20 years old, I woke up in the middle of the night. It was an incredibly bright full moon, bright enough that I could almost read by its light. When I woke up, I sat up in bed and I saw a man sitting at the foot of my bed. He was pure black with no visible facial features. He was wearing a long black trench coat and a black wide-brimmed hat. I reached out my hand to touch him and said a name which I can't remember. He then got up, opened my door, and ran down the stairs without saying a word. I followed, and there was no trace of anything out of place. I never told anyone about this. A few years later, my mom and I were chatting. I'd moved out and married by this point. She was upset about what happened a few nights ago. She woke up in the middle of the night to see a man standing next to her bed, staring at my dad. My mom asked what he was doing, and he replied, "It's not time," and he ran out of the room. Shortly thereafter, my nephew was staying with my mom. He refused to go up to bed and was crying. When I asked him why, he said he was scared of the tall black man standing at the end of the hallway. My wife also told me of seeing the same guy in the house with no prior knowledge of what I just told you. Have you ever heard anything like this before? The only thing I can tell you is it wasn't Slender Man. Keep up the great work, and that comes from Kevin. Yeah, Kevin, we hear that kind of story all the time. But I've never heard him speak, or it seems more like he was like a Grim Reaper almost, Tim.
Yeah, not so much Hat Man, but the Grim Reaper, like you're saying.
Yeah, look up Heidi, Heidi Hollis, Hollis. She's written some great books on Hat Man and Shadow People that may give you a little bit more insight. Well, that's it. That's it for this week for Supernatural News and ParaShare. We'll be back again next Monday, again doing that. We've got great shows lined up for you all week. Tomorrow, Tim, The Spirit of Justice on True Crime Tuesday. You have to tune in and check out the show. If you haven't subscribed already, go do it now. Go to darknessradio.com. Click on the True Crime Tuesday banner, subscribe, and you can pick up every episode of True Crime Tuesday since April when we began with our new format. So go check that out for yourself. Every week, a brand new 90-minute to 120-minute episode of the best in true crime talk radio, plus dumb crimes and stupid criminals. And as an extra bonus this week, Tim, because so many of our regular listeners love True Crime Tuesday and they haven't decided if they want to sign up yet, we're going to give them a taste of what they've been missing.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to give them a favorite episode of ours from a few weeks ago, The Foundling. Paul Franzak. This is truly one of the most remarkable stories I've ever heard. And I think people are going to absolutely be riveted to this. That's tomorrow on Beyond the Darkness. So you get a chance to hear a True Crime Tuesday episode for free. And check it out for yourself. And again, I'm confident once you hear this, you'll know why you should sign up. And go do that by going to darknessradio.com. Click on that True Crime Tuesday banner. Subscribe now for only $5 a month. That's only $1.25 per episode. That's it. And you just do it monthly. You can quit at any time. You don't have to continue. You don't have to pay $60 for a year. You can just do 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, however long you'd like to sign up. I've also had people ask, well, can I do more? Yes, you can donate as much as you want per month, and they'll just take it out every month. But the $5 is the minimum we ask, and that goes to pay for all of the costs for doing Beyond the Darkness, True Crime Tuesday, and making the archives in the Darkives available to you. So if you want to hear our old shows from 2006, 2007, and on, as we continue to add them 3 episodes per week, you can do that by visiting darknessradio.com. Click on the Darkives tab, and you'll be able to find all of the episodes there. While you're on our site at darknessradio.com, check out all of the buttons and cool links. You can check out our events page to find out where we're going to be this year and how you can meet with Tim or myself. You can also find our all the great sponsors that you hear on our show under the Killer Deals link. So you click on that, you'll get access to all the great killer deals that we offer through our advertisers, and that's a great way to help keep us on the show as well. And that's what we're doing. We want you to be a part of it. Thank you all for being here. Tomorrow, a doubleheader of True Crime Tuesday, one on Beyond the Darkness and one brand new episode airing on True Crime Tuesday. So go check that out for yourself. For Tim Dennis, I'm Dave Schrader. Tim, it's great to have you back, and we'll look forward to talking to you again next Monday.
Sounds good.
We'll be back right here on the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness.